Is your Wi-Fi driving you crazy? Here are some tricks to analyze it and some measures to improve it. Sometimes you get unexpected help from a Wi-Fi device. Old physicists already knew it. If you want to improve something, you need to measure it. In the case of modern Wi-Fi networks, this can be a bit challenging for the user. Today, I want to show a few methods how to analyze a Wi-Fi link with simple means, so that you can measure whether your improvement investigations are really working. I had some trouble with a connected air purifier and a connected wireless loudspeaker. I will show how I fixed it. And yes, of course, here is the inevitable monster to remind us. Don't forget to like the video and to subscribe to the channel. This is the floor plan of my apartment. We see the location of my Wi-Fi router and the two devices that are in a critical location. It is a Dyson air purifier working in the 2.4 GHz band and a Marshall wireless speaker that is connected on 5 GHz. The location of the devices is quite unfavorable for Wi-Fi, as can be seen from the sketch. There are two walls between the router and the devices, and the distance is relatively large. I get disconnects very often with the 2.4 GHz device and occasionally with the 5 GHz device. Actually, one is already wondering why this is not exactly the other way around, since we know that Wi-Fi has a greater range at 2.4 GHz. With my example, we can investigate all this, and I will explain how to systematically analyze the wireless connections and improve it step by step. By the way, if you are interested in wave propagation prediction, I have a tip for you. I explained this in two earlier videos, and there are even Excel tools available for download. In case of any problems, the first thing you should do is reading the system logs of your router. I use a so-called Fritzbox from AVM. Other products should have similar functions. However, the Fritzbox is really exemplary with these functions. In my case here, I found that a device was constantly logging in and out. It is my air purifier that disconnects 6 times in 5 minutes. So there is a problem. The next step is that we look at the received signal strength of the device. We will see later in which range the field strength should lie. But here we can already say that the received field strength is sufficient. There is probably another problem. Next, let's see if there might be interference from other Wi-Fi networks. So let's look at the use of the 2.4 GHz frequency band. At first, it looks like I did everything right with the frequency channel setting. I have selected an area where only few other networks are visible. However, unfortunately, exactly on my channel 6 is one of the strongest neighboring networks. Sorry, my router only tells me the strength of neighboring networks as a percentage by mouse over. That's why I'm tuning into channel 9 now. It looks worse now, but it's actually better because I get less interference from other networks even when there is more frequency overlap. Let's have a look on the router logs again. And yes, what can I say? Things are looking good now. The constant logging in and out has stopped, and I get a stable Wi-Fi connection to my air purifier device. Now we come to my beloved Marshall wireless speaker. For some reason I don't understand, this thing only runs at 5 GHz. And at 5 GHz the location is really unfavorable because the signal has to go through 2 walls. By the way, in a previous episode I explained how to predict wave propagation through walls. In case you are interested, just click on the top right. -75 dBm is just close to the limit where it can still work. Let's see how it looks with the frequency channels. In the 5 GHz band I also have an overlap with the neighbors. But here I can easily find completely free channels and I change the frequency channel accordingly. The stability of the radio channel can only improve as a result. Since the problem only occurs occasionally, I can't easily identify it from the system logs to decide whether my improvement measures are effective. But wait, there is more. This is a very interesting thing, which I did not expect at all. In my browser I see that a Weblink is linked to the Acton wireless speaker. Cool, I'll click on that right now. And I can see that the Acton wireless speaker actually has a web interface that I can open with my browser. Well done guys, I like it. Sorry that I have to hide some data under gray bars here. But look at how beautiful made it is. You can even adjust the treble and the bass with it. Of course there is an app for that, but I use the device mostly together with my PC. This is also one of the reasons why I like using the browser interface in the future. In the last tab here, I found something very interesting. You can generate and download system reports. Hey, let's do that right away. So we load the system report onto our PC, unzip it, and then we find a whole bunch of files of which are interesting. But for now we open the file WLAN-ANT0. This is what the file looks like that we are about to import into Excel and evaluate the data. Apparently it's a statistic of 279,495 samples. We find the modulation code schemes used, the signal to noise ratio, the noise level, and the received field strength. In case you want to know how to evaluate this with Excel, just leave me a comment below. A large number of values always look a lot friendlier when you make a graphic out of them. So here we have some statistics on the modulation code schemes used for our 5 GHz Wi-Fi link over the past few days. We see that the modulation levels 1 to 6 are used, and that also sometimes the frequency bandwidth is switched from 80 MHz to 40 MHz. Interesting, isn't it? The Wi-Fi link is anything but static, although the device is always perfectly still in the same place. But what is the significance of the modulation coding scheme now? Well, it has an impact on the receiver sensitivity, i.e. the reception field strength that is needed to be able to decode the digital radio signal. It also affects the minimum signal-to-noise ratio. So now we can judge what signal strength we need for a certain modulation mode level. As said before, with minus 75 dBm reception field strength, we are not doing particularly well. I must not forget to say, the table gives us the maximum data transfer rate for the different modulation codes. In my case, as we have seen, the system is constantly switching the modulation coding back and forth. Now let's look at the statistics of the received field strength. We get a signal statistics at its finest. We can expect this with more than 270,000 samples. We often get into the red area with the received field strength. Then the system switches to the next lower modulation level or even to the lower frequency bandwidths, as we have seen from the chart before. And obviously, sometimes the signal is so weak that it is no longer possible to stay connected. Hence the occasional outages. The signal-to-noise ratio on the wireless speaker side looks pretty good, actually being greater than 10 dB at all times. The distance to the critical area is quite good. The noise floor shows the background noise of the receiver with a bandwidth of 80 MHz and sometimes 40 MHz. Nothing special really, but it shows once again the irrefutable importance of the so-called Boltzmann constant, which can be used to determine the background noise of a receiver. Yes, after far more than 100 years of its discovery, it is more important than ever. The statistic provides exactly the noise power that results from the formula with the Boltzmann constant. I just did the math here. Once again, we are standing on the shoulders of a giant of science, Ludwig Boltzmann. After making the above settings for my Wi-Fi network, the stability of the network is already noticeably improved. But it would be nice if I could still achieve a further small improvement. You can also do something with simple physical means to improve the performance. I attached a sheet of metal to my router as shown in the picture here. The dimensions and the distance of the sheet metal to the router are not important, as it would be necessary with a real antenna reflector. It just blocks out some interfering signals coming from the back and marginally increases performance towards my critical area. Of course, the neighbors are also happy about it, probably without them really being aware of it, since my Wi-Fi signal interferes less with them now. However, the radio coverage in the back direction remains good enough to cover the two rooms behind it. Okay, with all the measures I was able to achieve that the two devices work well in my Wi-Fi network, even in the relatively unfavorable place. In case such measures are not sufficient, Then you can look for a better place for the router or set up a second access point with a second router or a Wi-Fi repeater. The insights and the summary. It's worth investigating individual Wi-Fi links to find the root cause of problems. As in my case, maybe you will also find little helpers who can support you in the analysis. Settings can sometimes help a lot. In addition, you can also apply some physical measures to improve performance a bit in a critical area. If simple means don't help, then you have to install a second access point or even more. What is your experience with Wi-Fi? Write me in the comments. Now stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe and support the channel. See you soon in the coming episodes.